This is I Doubt It Podcast with Brittany Page and Jesse Dollemore.
Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. Episode 958 of I Doubt It Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Dollemore, joined by the lovely, talented, and scholarly other host, Brittany Page.
New year, new war. You know, most people, when a new year starts, they have New Year's resolutions. They want to think about ways to improve upon the previous year. They're thinking about setting goals and intentions and what they want for their life in the upcoming year. And instead, Donald Trump thought about what he could do to continue to terrorize everyone.
It is there is such a wide proportion, a large number of individuals in the country who just are steadfast in absolutely ignoring all the promises Donald Trump made, all the assertions that he made about his character, about who he is, about how he will run the country as a policymaker, as a leader. He put people around him like Tulsi Gabbard and others that were against the regime change wars, the endless wars. Donald Trump wants the Nobel Peace Prize and said he got his soccer Peace Prize. And yet he's continuing or now full on engaging as a despot, as a Vladimir Putin type character and invading, attacking a country without notifying Congress, violating the Constitution. Congress has the sole authority to declare war. And that's where we are. And instead of absolute outrage and demanding answers and starting articles of impeachment because of this violation of the Constitution, we're not going to start here complaining about the fecklessness of our congressional leaders as Democrats. But it's hard not to.
Well, and it's certainly part of the story. And you mentioned Tulsi Gabbard, who's the director of national intelligence. And I think of her almost like I think of Meghan McCain, you know, like how they do those mashups where Meghan McCain is like, my father, talking about John McCain.
Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard's entire personality has been centered around being against regime change wars. I bet you could do a similar mashup like they do with Meghan McCain's my father. You could do that with regime change wars because that's how frequently Tulsi Gabbard is talking about being against regime change wars.
It was her entire personality.
Yes. And now here we are. I mean, I don't think she's made a statement yet.
She's not
probably not eager to make a statement. Yeah. But this is kind of what happens, right? People sell out their values and integrity in order to gain power in the Trump administration, to be rewarded with a position of power like Tulsi Gabbard was and the director of national intelligence, only to then be made a fool of because he has no values and principles other than what is going to make him money, gain him more power. And we're seeing that now because for months, Donald Trump himself, those in the administration, they have been denying that they were planning direct strikes on Venezuela. And here we are.
Yeah.
Overnight, we woke up to news of this on the East Coast here, that overnight, the U.S. military, we shouldn't say we, because it's not me and you. We weren't involved in this, but...
Well, maybe. Can you account for where you were and what you were doing at all hours of the night?
Yes, I can, actually. So we woke up to news that overnight, the U.S. military had kidnapped the president of Venezuela and his wife.
Well, let's start here, though, before we really jump into this and start playing with some clips. I posted something earlier online because there's any time that something that has any level of complexity that it presents itself, people freak out. And it's like, this is wrong, and no one talks about it all. That Nicolás Maduro is a terrible guy. He's a despot. He's a dictator. He did not win the election. He denied the actual results of an election. I wonder who else does stuff like that. So he's not a good guy. He's a thug, right? But we live in a constitutional republic that is undergirded by our founding documents and the laws that make us what we are and who we are. And in those laws, in those founding documents, in the same Constitution of the United States that Donald Trump took an oath to, raised his little right hand and swore an oath to, it says that the Congress has the sole authority to declare war. Donald Trump does not have that authority. This isn't under the auspices of some terror-related authorization of force that was from decades ago. He's just starting new conflicts. So that's where we're going to be criticizing here. Did he need to be removed? Yeah, the people of Venezuela should have gotten rid of him. But it is not our duty to do so. And even if it is, there is a proper mechanism by which we can follow the Constitution and allow it to take place.
And let's say this up front as well, because we talk a lot on this show about what we can do. We don't just want to sit here and complain about things that we don't like. We want to actually take action, and we want to encourage people to take action. So one thing that you can and should do is call your elected officials and demand impeachment for Donald Trump.
Yes.
And that phone number is 202-224-3121. Because, I think about the bombing of the Iran nuclear sites in June and how action was not taken then.
No, there was action. There was all kinds of sternly worded, carefully crafted statements from Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer. How are these our leaders in the Democratic Party?
Well,
the same leaders who, after Zoran Mamdani gets elected, the posts from the Democratic the parent company, the overall organization, there's a new day in New York City. Oh, you're jumping on the bandwagon now, are you? Are you? Good. Fantastic. Well, I know it's another topic.
And again, I think back to the striking of the Iran nuclear sites back in June. And this is a quote from NPR. Quote, several prominent Democrats criticized the military action on Saturday, with Rep. Jim Hines, the highest ranking Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, saying in a statement, quote, Donald Trump's decision to launch direct military action against Iran without congressional approval is a clear violation of the Constitution, which grants the power to declare war explicitly to Congress, which you were just talking about. And so back in June, Democrats were saying that he took this illegal step. Here we are again. He's starting the new year, continuing with this pattern of disregarding what the law says. When is the line finally going to be reached? For those in the Democratic Party to unify and say, we finally need to do something.
Well, a lot of people would say, well, let's wait until the midterms. That's when some action's really going to happen. Will it? Because Democrats had power in the wake of January 6th. We're getting ready to come up on the 5-year anniversary of that. And nothing happened for months and months and months and months and months and months.
And now he's kidnapped the leader of another country and is saying that we're going to run it. He's saying the United States is going to run Venezuela.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And
it was low energy. It's shocking to me that there are so many people, and they're misguided or conspiracy minded, whatever, who listen to this and think, oh, that's a strong man. Mm-hmm. That's a man with a plan. Yeah. They don't see this slurring, sleepy. This was like 11:30 in the morning here on the East Coast, and he's ready for his nap, Grandpa.
Yeah, he looks absolutely horrible. He sounds horrible. It's just a continuation of the pattern of all of this. But I agree. I've already seen comments coming in on my various posts online from people defending this. And I'm like, how much time occurred between you learning about this action in Venezuela and then you rushing to the internet in strangers' comments to defend it? Like, not much time at all, because all they have to hear is Donald Trump did this. And for many people, that's all it takes is, oh, okay, well, that's my personality. If Donald Trump did it, I support it.
Well, the other thing is, remember the Iraq War was his whole, his plank. It was his whole claim to fame that I was always against the Iraq War. Not necessarily true, but he was always against it. He's against it. He's against regime change. He's against, it's not our business. What are we going to do when we get there? It's just, and now he's doing it's just a replay of Iraq with all of these weak sauce explanations and justifications for our entry. Now, what they're trying to do is paint a picture that it was just the military backing up the Department of Justice. But in the statement from which you just heard Donald Trump speak, that's like an hour-long presser that he did. He said multiple times, we attacked them. So it's not the lie that it's a backing up the Department of Justice isn't going to hold water, especially in a court of law after having listened to the President of the United States admit that it was a preemptive strike on a country to kidnap two citizens, the president, whether legitimately there or not. That's the situation.
Well, and again, I find it's almost like having, when Kellyanne Conway would be asked to do interviews, or like Scott Jennings would be the more contemporaneous example of this. It's when you hear people like that talk online, you're like, what's the point of hearing this person talk? They lie constantly. They don't care about the truth.
Yeah.
They're just out there to massage the Trump talking points and sell them to the American people. And I feel the same way listening to the press conference, where it's like, what's the point of listening to Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio, all of these sycophants just talk about what happened? We don't actually know if they're telling the truth. In fact, they're probably not telling the truth because they've been lying for months about taking this action. Even during the press conference, they were saying they didn't have time to give warning because it was an immediate action that was needed. But then they were also saying they had planned it for months.
Right, exactly.
And this all just leads to more questions. I mean, what does it mean that we're going to be running Venezuela? Are we the law enforcement in Venezuela now? Are we going to be running their elections?
According
now?
to Donald Trump, yes, we're going to be running it. Or a certain group of people. It's a certain group of people will be running it. It's all vagary. Nobody knows anything, even Donald Trump. And like you said about the planning for months, they're trying to act like this was an imminent national security threat to the United States, but it's been in the planning stages for months and months and months. That's not what an imminent national security threat is. It's like an immediate strike. Not, we're going to be meticulous and we're going to take months and all this time. That's not an imminent threat to the country.
Well, and Trump was also asked, so he gave a statement. That's what you heard there when he was talking about how we're going to run Venezuela now. But he was also asked questions at the end of his statement and Pete Hegseth's statement and Marco Rubio's statement, where he was asked, who's in power right now then in Venezuela? Like, who actually is in power?
The U.S. is going to run Venezuela. So who's in power right now?
Well, we're going to be running it with a group, and we're going to make sure it's run properly. We're going to rebuild the oil infrastructure, which will cost billions of dollars. It'll be paid for by the oil companies directly. They will be reimbursed for what they're doing, but that's going to be paid. And we're going to get the oil flowing the way it should be. As you know, it was just a minor flow. It was actually a minor flow for what they have. But we're going to run it properly, and we're going to make sure the people of Venezuela are taken care of. We're going to
Everything he said, by the way, everything he said indicated that he previously spoke to the oil companies. So now this is going to be a financial windfall to the tune of billions and billions of dollars for the oil companies. They're going to come in, and it's not like it's going to come out of taxpayer dollars. We're going to seize the natural resource of another nation, and we're going to pay Exxon and all these other oil companies for standing up a oil retrieval operation, and they're going to make hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars.
But also, you heard at the end there, he said, we're going to take care of the Venezuelans. You mean like the Venezuelans you sent to CCOT, the El Salvador torture prison? You mean take care of them like you took care of those Venezuelans? Like, don't pretend that you care about people at all.
Certainly not after you've spent months and months and months, if not years, demonizing the Venezuelan people. That everybody who has Venezuelan lineage in their genetics, in their ethnicity, is Tren de Agua and all of the nonsense, the racist bullshit. So now he wants to take care of the Venezuelan people, which, by the way, he can't even take care of the people of the United States with health care or food assistance or whatever else. Can't even take care of veterans. So get the fuck out of here about how you're going to take care of the Venezuelan people.
Well, and when you were talking about the money aspect of this and who is going to be making money and the oil companies, I do have to note, because we're still learning things even as we're doing this show, that the Wall Street Journal is reporting that what appears to be a newly created account on Polymarket placed a $30,000 bet, I guess, and that Maduro would go into custody on Saturday morning. And
really?
After Maduro went into custody, that same account, that same investor made over $400,000 from that bet on Polymarket.
Because they clearly had inside information from the Donald Trump administration that this was going to happen, and then profited to the tune of nearly $500,000. Holy shit.
So they're doing insider trading on
the gambling prediction markets.
Yeah, it's horrifying,
wow.
Horrifying stuff.
I mean, look, this is where we are. This is who we have as president of the United States. All of the disparate groups who didn't like Kamala Harris, whether because she was the black lady or because she was the vice president of quote unquote Genocide Joe, they led us down the path of ruin. They are responsible for this. From the far right extreme Nazi types to the chaos causing extreme lefty types. We're here because of them.
Well, and that's something I hope for in 2026, actually, is that my fellow leftists will begin to hate fascists more than they hate liberals. If anything happens in 2026, please let that be it. Because now we're in a situation.
That is brilliant. That's exactly what we need.
Yeah, no, leftists, please hate the fascists more than the liberals. That's what we need. Because now we're in a situation where, like we said, Donald Trump has kidnapped the leader of another country overnight. They're going to try him, apparently, in the state of New York for crimes. And they are talking about having boots on the ground now in Venezuela. Trump was asked, again, during this press conference, is he going to have boots on the ground in Venezuela?
Mr. President, does the U.S. running the country mean that U.S. troops will be on the ground? How will that work?
Well, you know, they always say boots on the ground. Oh, so we're not afraid of boots on the ground if we have to have. We had boots on the ground last night at a very high level, actually. We're not afraid of it. We don't mind saying it. But we're going to make sure that that country is run properly. We're not doing this in vain. This is a very dangerous attack. This is an attack that could have gone very, very badly. Could have gone very badly. We could have lost a lot of people last night. We could have lost a lot of dignity. We could have lost a lot of equipment. The equipment is less important, but we could have lost a lot. And we're going to make sure that this is proper.
The equipment is less important, but I'm still going to mention it. It's toward the top of the list.
You know, watching Marco Rubio behind him is just a remarkable, like he's talking about, well, we could have lost our dignity. We lost our dignity a long fucking time ago, Donald Trump. Thank you, brother. And those behind you have also lost their dignity, especially people who try to purport themselves to be men of integrity like Marco Rubio. I had no hopes. I mean, I had no hopes for Marco Rubio when he bent the knee, but like I don't expect much from Pete fucking Hegseth. But Marco Rubio, just you can see that he's unhappy. And the allure of power, the allure of the possibility of him eventually becoming president must be just a hell of a drug that has warped his little brain.
You know who was unanimously confirmed to be Secretary of State?
Oh, yeah. By his fellow members of the United States Senate.
Yeah, Marco Rubio. Unanimously confirmed. And now, where is he? Now he's standing right beside Donald Trump. Yeah. He's being asked, because there's a lot of questions, right? How far are you going to go with this then? Because they're saying that this was necessary because of the drug trafficking and that Venezuela is poisoning Americans with drugs. So if that's the argument, and we're going to get to that because we obviously know that he pardoned the former Honduran president, who's a notorious drug trafficker. And now we're wondering, like, okay, Venezuela's not the only one with the drugs. Yeah. So Marco Rubio was actually asked, should Cuba be concerned about this action? Does this bode well for Cuba? And he said, yeah, the Havana government should be concerned.
That helped protect Maduro. This is well known. Their whole spy agency, all that were full of Cubans. I mean, they basically, it's amazing. This poor island took over Venezuela in some cases. One of the biggest problems that Venezuelans have is they have to declare independence from Cuba that tried to basically colonize it from a security standpoint. So, yeah, look, if I lived in Havana and I was in the government, I'd be concerned, at least a little bit.
Cutting off the oil flow to Cuba from Venezuela?
Well, the president already announced a week ago that anything that's sanctioned, oil, it's not going to be allowed to get there. So that's a pre-existing.
Mr. President?
The answer is yes. Yes.
Yeah, it is. This is imperialism. Donald Trump wants to be an emperor type. And even that we talked about he was talking about the Monroe Doctrine. I don't know if you pulled that clip here.
I didn't.
But he was talking about the Monroe Doctrine, and he made a little jokey little play on words. I think he really wants it to take off. It's not the Monroe Doctrine anymore. It's the Donroe Doctrine.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to take off.
Clever and awesome and cool. Look, a war crimes tribunal is what we need for these people. These are all war criminals standing behind Donald Trump, up to and including Donald Trump. They need to be impeached, convicted, and removed. They need to be indicted, convicted, and sentenced to prison. This is criminal actions we're talking about here. This isn't just a difference about politics. This is criminal.
Yeah, and what's concerning is I am not sure that the Democrats have it in them to start stoking that.
Yeah.
And another thing that needs to happen is everything that Trump has added his face and name to, once he leaves office, it needs to be like ripped down in like a ceremony style, celebration style removal. It needs to be like announcing where we need to be to witness it being ripped down. And then we need to be there to film it, to celebrate, to usher in a new era.
Just auction off at a charity auction. Here's the golden fucking crowbar, Jesse. You won the bid. You get to go and be put up in a cherry picker or whatever those little boxes are that power linemen use. We're going to hoist you up atop the Kennedy Center, and you're going to rip off Donald Trump's fucking name.
Just do the Arrested Development stair car. You know, you got it. Do a 2-for-1. So the Donald Trump actually backed up that point. You could hear him in the background there reinforcing the point that Marco Rubio made about Cuba. But he actually went further. If you were wondering, he said, yes, Cuba should be worried, could be next.
Go ahead.
Yeah, is there a message here for Cuba and Diaz-Canel?
Well, Cuba is an interesting case. Cuba is, not doing very well right now. That system has not been a very good one for Cuba. The people there have suffered for many, many years. And I think Cuba is going to be something we'll end up talking about because Cuba is a failing nation right now, very badly failing nation. And we want to help the people. It's very similar in the sense that we want to help the people in Cuba, but we want to also help the people that were forced out of Cuba and living in this country. Do you want to say something about that, Marco, please?
Something that enrages me is hearing him talk about this as though they want to help all these other failing nations, when, of course, Elon Musk via Doge, with the approval and direction from Donald Trump, eliminated USAID, which is causing deaths right now. Children are starving. Adults are starving.
Hundreds of thousands of deaths will most certainly, if they have not already occurred, be a direct result of that, cutting those funds.
Well, and there's all kinds of reporting, ProPublica, that deaths are happening right now. Children are actively starving, dying, starving to death because Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Doge decided to gut USAID and stop giving aid. And Marco Rubio has also defended this position publicly. And so you have people right now that are living in various nations that are dying because USAID was gutted. And Donald Trump is sitting there pretending as though he cares about people in other nations that are suffering under quote unquote failing states. Again, he doesn't care, but what he does see is opportunities. And wherever there is an opportunity for power and money, Donald Trump is going to show up and take advantage of that situation. And it's really disgusting that people who know better are choosing to stand beside him and prop him up. And that's something that I think about all the time because I don't know what's in it for people like Marco Rubio. I know that, we've talked privately. You'll say, well, he wants to be president. And it's so strange to me because all of that is predicated on the general public forgiving, forgetting, and moving on. And maybe that's possible, right?
Well, I think they know MAGA is largely unconcerned about the Constitution. They're unconcerned about the law. They're unconcerned about decency or good order or our reputation on a global stage. They don't care about any of that. They love being in the cult. So yeah, he knows his supporters aren't going to care. But fortunately for us, it's going to take more than just MAGA to elect him. It's going to take those independents and swing voters and others. And I mean, all of this is terrible, but I think it bodes well for, one, the midterms, and also this is less important, the electoral gains. Mm-hmm. But it would speak to people waking up. Like, oh, shit, yeah, we don't want to be this. We just went through this a couple of decades ago in Iraq, and everybody remembers. Yeah. So.
And because we want you to know, we want you to know what they are actually floating. It's not just Cuba. They talked about several countries, actually, and we're going to go through the different countries that they talked about. But they also talked about, for example, Colombia.
Mr. President, Colombian President Gustavo Petro, a couple weeks ago, he said he's got to watch his ass. And today he said he's not concerned about anything happening to him in the aftermath of this operation. So just what your message is about that. Well,
he has cocaine mills. He has factories where he makes cocaine. And yeah, I think I stick by my first statement. He's making cocaine. They're sending it into the United States. So he does have to watch his ass.
Mr. President, did you notify any...
So how far is this going to go? How far is this going to go?
Right.
And that's the thing that is missing from a lot of these statements that we're seeing from Democrats, which, again, we will get to, is they are just talking about Venezuela and what happened last night. And It's like, did you hear the press conference where they are signaling that it is not going to stop at Venezuela? And it's certainly not going to stop at Venezuela if you don't make it stop at Venezuela. It's also going to continue.
What are they doing here? Are they going in alphabetical fucking order? Cuba and Colombia, and then what's next? Denmark, Deutschland. Are we the next imperial power in the on the globe? It's just days like this when shit like this happens. It puts me in a just a funk, I guess. I'm trying to really keep it together because I know that there are people out there who are rejoicing at this. And I don't mean Venezuelans who are now happy that that despot is gone, but Americans who are like, yeah, we're back, baby. This is not, what do you mean we're back? I've been seeing that online all over the place. This is what we were and we tried to get away from. It's the thing that Donald Trump campaigned on getting us out of. And now, because make no mistake, he's going to make millions and millions and millions of dollars from this personally, and his pals are going to make billions of dollars. This is all a money grab. This is a play to get the oil that Donald Trump continues to say is our oil under the ground in Venezuela.
And just like it was during the election, because you talked about the Genocide Joe stuff, and of course, right, it is disturbing that Joe Biden stood by Benjamin Netanyahu and stood by Israel, continued to support giving them arms during the genocide in Gaza. It's horrific that happened during the election. But there are people who rightfully talked about and recognized that there was a genocide in Gaza and criticized Democrats for their support of that and said, dear God, guys, we need to elect Kamala Harris here. And one of the aspects of that was Donald Trump talking about remaking Gaza and talking about the beachfront property. Yeah. And his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who's married to Ivanka Trump, was going to have a hand in developing Gaza and eyeing the beachfront property. And
even just the other day, either Marco Rubio or Pete Hegseth referred to Jared Kushner relative to Gaza as the investor.
Right.
He's the investor.
Right. And so all of the signs have been here before Donald Trump took office. And if you were consuming media, let me just say this. If you were consuming media during the election that was trying to make it seem as though Kamala Harris, it was just a toss-up, right, between Trump and Kamala Harris in terms of...
It's the uniparty.
Yeah, in terms of their vibe, in terms of what they had planned to do, in terms of their values and principles. Listen, you have heard us talking poorly about Democrats, even from the start of this episode. But
We've had criticisms for Kamala Harris.
Yeah, but dear God, this
yeah.
things would be very different if she were in office. For example, we wouldn't be talking about possibly invading Mexico, which once the news broke about what happened in Venezuela, Donald Trump started making the rounds and he went on Fox and Friends. And what's remarkable about this exchange to me is how casually they're asking him about if this situation in Venezuela is a message that he's sending to other countries, and should Mexico be worried as well.
Trafficking must stop. So was this operation a message that you're sending to Mexico, to Claudia Sheinbaum, the president there?
Well, it wasn't meant to be, and we're very friendly with her. She's a good woman, but the cartels are running Mexico. She's not running Mexico. The cartels are running Mexico. And we could be politically correct and be nice and say, oh, yes, she is. No, she's very, she's very frightened of the cartels. They're running Mexico. And I've asked her numerous times, would you like us to take out the cartels? No, Mr. President. No, please. So we have to do something because we lost. The real number is 300,000 people, in my opinion. They like to say 100,000. 100,000 is a lot of people, but the real number is 300,000 people. And we lost it to drugs, and they come in through the southern border, mostly the southern border. Plenty come in through Canada, too, by the way, in case you don't know. But they come in through the southern border, and something's going to have to be done with Mexico.
That is alarming. Something's going to have to be done to Mexico after an invasion, an attack, unjustified, unconstitutional against a sovereign country, with a despot, with a piece of shit president, and threatening Cuba and Colombia, and all in the same breath also our ally, our neighbor to the south, Mexico. From the guy who wanted the Nobel fucking Peace Prize and cried and whined and sniveled until the corrupt international soccer organization made one up for him and gave it to him. Well, that he literally put around his own neck.
Yeah, well, it seems like Republicans just feel like it's open season. They're just like naming countries that they would like to take over and own and run, and just naming places like Mike Huckabee, the ambassador to Israel, the father of Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who used to be Donald Trump's press secretary in the first term, and he recently went on. I think it was Newsmax. It was one of the ones that you shouldn't watch. And he started talking about how maybe Iran should be on the list.
Trying to build weapons to kill people in other parts of the world rather than build a better life for the Iranian people. So let's hope that nobody has to go in militarily and take down Iran. Maybe the people will do it from within. That'd be the best solution of all. And bring them into a sense of civilization. They once were really the most progressive and extraordinarily culturally advanced part of this part of the whole world. And then after the Ayatollahs came in 1979, they screwed the whole place up.
I mean, how else are we going to spend our over $1 trillion per year military budget if we're not invading country after country after country to run those countries? I mean, he wants Canada to be the 51st state. Is that what's next for Canada? Is Iran going to be the 52nd state, and Venezuela going to be the 53rd, and Cuba be the 54th? Colombia be the 55th. Before you know it, we've got a one world government that is run by Donald Trump under the auspices of the United States Constitution, which forbids all of this fucking bullshit.
Something I keep thinking about is how, when you look back on history, a lot of times you'll think, or you'll talk about how could people have let this happen, right? How could people have let the rise of Hitler happen or whatever, right? And we're living through a moment right now where people in the future are going to look back on us and say, how did they let this happen? And every time Susan Collins says she's really concerned, and every time Chuck Schumer says he's going to write a sternly worded letter, and every time you hear all of these leaders who actually have power, positions of power to do something, every time the UN comes out and says that they're really concerned about what has transpired, you just have to sit back and think, this is going to be a moment when people look back at what's happening now and say, what is wrong what was wrong with all these people? How did they let this happen?
It makes me, like earlier when you were asking about why does anybody watch all this stuff? And I think really the only value that comes out of people watching these things is that it shows them to be the liars and the grifters and the charlatans and the phonies that they are. Because they're already trying to explain away. There are pundits out there and people in the administration are saying, this isn't about the oil. This was about national security of the United States. This was about drugs. This was about providing democracy and freedom and liberty to the people of Venezuela. But we've heard we know what the explanation was. This is about money. This is absolutely about the oil. And future generations will look back and be able to see clearly the writing on the wall that that's what this was about.
Yeah, and Donald Trump is making it clear that this is about oil. I mean, you heard it in a previous clip where he alluded directly to the fact that this is about oil, that is his primary motivation. Now, he keeps saying it's about drugs. We know it's not about drugs. Why would we believe him when he says that? Because, for example, he even touted, again, false numbers on that Fox and Friends clip that we played about the number of overdose deaths. And if these people were actually concerned about the lethality of drugs in this country, then they would legalize drugs, regulate them, ensure that you protect against poisonous drugs so that overdose deaths go down. You would invest in things like harm reduction. You would stop criminalizing addiction. Those things are what kill people. Those things are what increase overdose deaths. And instead of investing in things like harm reduction, instead of championing legalization so that you can regulate the drug supply, instead of doing those things, they continue to do these things that are not actually going to decrease overdose deaths and are instead just going to make them rich. And Donald Trump's making that clear when he specifically, and he spent a lot of time talking about this, when he specifically makes it clear that this is about oil.
As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust, for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country. And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so. So we were prepared to do a second wave if we needed to do so. We actually assumed that a second wave would be necessary, but now it's probably not.
So listen, all of the explanations that you're going to be hearing in the following days and weeks, that this was about national security, this is about removing Maduro so the Venezuelan people can live their lives and be free. This is about the oil. And it's the same thing Donald Trump has said so many times over that we should have taken the oil, stolen the oil. That's what's about. And even in this, he's making as though this attack was predicated on them not pulling out enough oil. They weren't running the business well enough, so that justifies our military attack. What?
Right. So now if you aren't running your country well, the United States military is going to invade your country, kidnap your leaders, take over your country, and start running it better as a business.
And listen, there are countries out there that are not in the Middle East who, like Venezuela, Norway, for instance, has vast oil reserves. And if Donald Trump doesn't think that they're pumping out enough of that oil and doing business, quote unquote, the right way, does he have the right to invade Norway and take over their oil fields and then just call it our oil? I mean, this is what we're looking at. It's not hyperbole to worry about that. Donald Trump has been talking about this very thing for years, about the oil. He's obsessed with it.
Yeah, and just like I said, there have always been these signs. They're not even signs. They've just been explicitly saying what their plans are. And this is another example where in 2023 on the campaign trail, Donald Trump specifically talked about Venezuela, specifically talked about oil, specifically talked about how the oil is making the dictator in Venezuela very rich.
How about we're buying oil from Venezuela? When I left, Venezuela was ready to collapse. We would have taken it over. We would have gotten all that oil. It would have been right next door. But now we're buying oil from Venezuela, so we're making a dictator very rich. Can you believe this? Nobody can believe it. You know where the oil, their oil is garbage. It's horrible. The worst you can get, tar. It's like tar. And to refine it, you need special plants. And these people...
McDonald's, do your job, bro. I mean, listen, I get very tired when I say things on my YouTube show about I hate Donald Trump, or I say things aggressive about I look forward to his death, but I can't wait until we wake up to news headlines that he died in his sleep, things like that. Oh, you shouldn't say such things. This isn't just about politics as usual. I wouldn't say that about Ted Cruz, who I loathe and think is just a filthy piece of shit. Donald Trump is different. He is a fascist who is leading us to ruin. He is responsible for endless death and destruction. And now he's doubling down on this new power that he has, that he's been granted by the Republican Party, both elected and voter, and the Supreme Court. He's a clear and present danger to the United States, and something just has to be done.
And that's what's, I think, so difficult. And that's when you were talking earlier about how you struggle on news days like this. I mean, I was looking forward to having a nice, relaxing weekend as the first weekend of 2026.
Me too.
And then, you wake up to this and anyway, so it's disturbing to think about how he has been telling us exactly what his goals are and what he wants. And think of all of the things that Republicans tell us that we can't afford, right? The Republicans just championed the expiring enhanced tax credits, leading to surging prices for healthcare for millions of Americans. Millions of Americans will be, because of those expiring enhanced tax credits for healthcare, will be foregoing healthcare coverage.
We're already seeing it. The subsidies expired at the end of the year.
Yeah.
No more subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. So if you're on the exchange, your rates are skyrocketing, tripling, doubling. They are very much increasing. And Donald Trump doesn't care. We don't have enough money for that, but we have enough money because, mark my words, when we have these protracted military conflicts across the globe, we're going to have to pay for them. Donald Trump continues to say, he said previous, and he's going to continue to say, it's not going to cost the American people any money. That's not true. The money they say we don't have, we'll be able to find for the military. We just can't find it for education, for healthcare, for all of the other things that would very much enrich the lives of Americans all over the country.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. I mean, think of all of the things that Republicans are always telling us we can't afford. We can't afford food assistance. We need to implement work requirements because poor and working class people are taking advantage of the system. We can't afford to invest in affordable housing. We can't afford to invest in housing first policies that reduce homelessness, which has been so successful in reducing homelessness for veterans, has been so successful as a model in Houston for reducing homelessness. We can't invest in childcare assistance. We can't make childcare free. We can't make healthcare free. We can't invest in the vaccine research, the health research, that all these contracts, billions of dollars in contracts that have been canceled by the Trump administration. We can't have USAID, but we can have $400 million ballrooms. We can afford to constantly arm Israel. We can afford to kidnap the leader of Venezuela and take over the country and start running it. And what you said is right, Jesse, that he is making these claims, Donald Trump, that this whole thing is not going to cost us anything, he says, because the oil companies are going to pay for it. Now, there's two options here. Number one.
Is it a lot like his wall that Mexico was going to pay for? This wall won't cost you billions and billions of dollars, American citizen. Mexico's going to pay for it.
Right.
Remember?
There's two options here. One of the options is not that that's true. It's either that he's lying or that he has some prior arrangement that he has made that he is going to be profiting from surely, that he's aware of. So
let me jump in.
Or is there a third option?
No. On that point, okay. I mean, if they're already leaking the attack plans to somebody so they can make a bet on the gambling markets, on the prediction markets they call them.
Right.
You don't think they're also giving that information so people can start buying up ExxonMobil stock? They will absolutely enrich themselves. So it's not a separate point, but it's just a piggyback on one of the others.
Yeah, so there was a moment during this whole press conference where he said the oil companies are going to pay for all of this.
President, is it possible that the U.S. ends up administrating Venezuela for years?
Well, it won't cost us anything because the money coming out of the ground is very substantial. So it's not going to cost us anything. We want safety there. We want to be surrounded by countries that aren't housing all of our enemies all over the world. That's what was happening, and you don't want to have that. But we're going to be rebuilding, and we're not spending money. The oil companies are going to go in. They're going to spend money. We're going to take back the oil that, frankly, we should have taken back a long time ago. A lot of money is coming out of the ground. We're going to get reimbursed for all of that. We're going to get reimbursed for everything that we spend. So it's going to be a very important. This is a very big evening that took place last night.
It's going to be good.
Yeah, for those of you who know Arrested Development.
Another Arrested Development reference. What is this, 2003?
Apparently it is, because that's when we invaded Iraq.
Oh.
So...
Wow.
Good
yeah,
one, Brittany.
Very, very fitting. Very fitting. Yeah. And I mean, the larger question here is also because Donald Trump keeps saying, or he came into office saying that he's going to be the America First president, right? His policies are America First. That's his primary concern is Americans, never mind that he's forcing millions of Americans to forego health insurance, letting those
that he committed fraud
subsidies
against the country and its people, and with his fucking Trump University and all of the frauds and the schemes and the scams and his charities. Yes, he doesn't give a no, he doesn't care.
Yes, and so he was also asked this question of, reconcile this for me. The reporter asking the question was engaging in some therapeutic wonderment where you kind of pretend like you don't know, right? Now, how is this move? How is this move actually America First?
Mr. President, why is running a country in South America America First?
Well, I think it is because we want to surround ourselves with good neighbors. We want to surround ourselves with stability. We want to surround ourselves with energy. We have tremendous energy in that country. It's very important that we protect it. We need that for ourselves. We need that for the world. And we want to make sure we can protect it.
Always about the oil. Mm-hmm. Time and time again during this hour-plus long thing, he went back to the oil. He didn't talk about national security. I mean, if it's by percentage of the different reasons he gave for this attack, oil was 90% of the time, and a flourish of other things that were mentioned, and usually they were mentioned by dipshits like Raisin Kane and Pete Hegseth and the more cautious individuals who don't have the loyalty of a frothing racist cult like Donald Trump has, like Marco Rubio. They kind of towed the line where he just went roughshod.
Well, and there's again part of me that asks the question, what's the point of asking questions of Donald Trump? And I feel this way a lot during...
Yeah, it's to get him on the record for a court case.
Yeah, no, that's...
For when he goes to The Hague, when someone is able to kidnap Donald Trump, him and Melania, and take him elsewhere for a trial and a conviction and his hanging by the neck until he's dead. Yeah. Maybe that's why.
I suppose that is probably the best argument, actually. Yeah, you convinced me to stop complaining about it because no, I sit here and I listen to it. I'm like, it's just endless lying. And it's not convincing anyone. I mean, maybe it is convincing people.
Well,
I don't know.
Listen, there's going to be court cases made.
Yeah,
there are going to be court cases involving this. Even Maduro's own case. When it goes to trial. And they're going to use the words of the President of the United States, the policymaker, the Commander-in-Chief of the United States Armed Forces. They're going to take him at his word. And this was not about anything else than enriching Donald Trump and his friends, his CEO executive pals, and the prediction market nerds who he's allowing to have inside information about the attacks.
Yeah, well, because there was another moment where the illogical choices of the administration was called into question. And one of those being the stated concern here is with drug trafficking and drug traffickers. So if that's your primary concern, Donald Trump, then why is it that you pardoned the former Honduran president who was convicted of the same exact thing, drug trafficking? Why did you give him a pardon if you're now, this is your stated concern is drug trafficking? Can you help us reconcile that?
You said that Maduro is responsible for drug trafficking. You recently pardoned the former president of Honduras who was convicted on many drug trafficking. Can you explain how these two situations are different? And would you ever pardon Maduro?
I endorsed, as you know, the winning president, the man who won in Honduras. I endorsed the man who won in Chile. I endorsed the man who won in Argentina. And we are doing very well with that whole group. What the man that I pardoned was, if you could equate it to us, he was treated like the Biden administration treated a man named Trump. That didn't work out too well for them. This was a man who was persecuted very unfairly. He was the head of the country. He was persecuted very unfairly. And there are a number of them. And we felt that it was a very unfair situation that happened to him. He's also a party member of the man who won. So obviously the people liked what I did. And one of the reasons that was done is because of the fact that the party in power felt very strongly that that man was treated very badly. I studied it very quickly, and then I studied it in great detail. I went to a lot of the people standing behind me, and they felt that that man was persecuted and treated very badly. That's why I gave him a pardon.
Yeah, it has nothing at all to do with Donald Trump being enriched by, like every other pardon where we find out after the fact that Donald Trump had something to do with that person, or Donald Trump's good friend had something to do with that person, and there was communication behind the scenes. They didn't go through the pardon office of the Department of Justice. It's all just open public corruption on the part in a way that we've never seen before. We never have seen anything like this from George W. Bush or George H.W. Bush, even Ronald Reagan, who there was a series, a slew, a litany, a pack, a grouping of indictments surrounding his administration. We've never seen anything like this before.
Well, let me translate some of that for you, because at first Donald Trump said that he studied it very quickly at first, meaning the case of the former Honduran president. And then he studied it more extensively. He didn't use the word extensively. And then he went around to various people, he said, including some of the people behind him, and got their opinions. And so what he means by all of that is Stephen Miller told him to do it.
That's exactly right. Shadow President Stephen Miller. Yeah.
I mean, let's just stop pretending here. He knows nothing. He is told what to go out and say. It's just like Will Scharf reading all of the executive orders. He has no idea what he's signing. Will Scharf comes in and he's like, okay, tell us about this executive order today, Will. And then he tells everyone about the executive order. And then Trump's like, oh, that's a big one. That's a big one. I'm going to sign it. It's so embarrassing. So we were talking about Tulsi Gabbard earlier, her Meghan McCain, like my father regime change situation. And it's been her personality, the regime change, being against regime change or nation building, including, by the way, in October 2025, where AP reported, quote, the U.S. National Intelligence Director told officials Friday in the Mideast that America's former strategy of regime change, ding, 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 or nation building had ended under Donald Trump.
It ended?
Yeah.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, it ended. So it's over. So that's not happening anymore.
Right.
Someone should tell her.
Well, somebody should tell us. Apparently, we're seeing something that's not actually happening.
Yeah, but
very Orwellian here.
And again, you heard Donald Trump from 2023 when he was on the campaign trail, right? That would be before he was elected president and before he decided to appoint Tulsi Gabbard as the director of national intelligence, where she is in her position now. And in 2019, Tulsi Gabbard specifically went on the record about keeping hands off of Venezuela.
The United States needs to keep our hands off Venezuela and let the Venezuelan people determine their own future. And as president, I would continue that policy both in countries like Venezuela and others, and end these destructive and wasteful regime change wars that have proven so costly on us, the American people, on our troops and service members and their families, and have proven to cause more problems, increase suffering, increase instability for the people in the countries where we wage these wars. In Latin America especially, we only have to look to history to see what happens when the United States comes in and tries to act as the world's police, toppling governments and leaders and dictators that they don't like. It is the people who always end up suffering the most, both in the short term as well as the long term.
I just want to read a little bit more from this AP article because you just heard her. So let's look at how fresh, how much she's repeating these lines. In the AP article, quote, "For decades, our foreign policy has been trapped in a counterproductive and endless cycle of regime change or nation building. It was a one-size-fits-all approach of toppling regimes, trying to impose our system of governance on others, intervene in conflicts that were barely understood, and walk away with more enemies than allies." And now here we are. Again, this is Tulsi Gabbard's entire thing. Her entire thing.
I love that she says, as president, I would continue that policy. Oh, but I guess as the director of national intelligence, I'm completely powerless and no one listens to me now because Donald Trump has already said I'm stupid when I said the thing about the Iran nuclear program. Like she's backseat now.
Yeah.
But power is so intoxicating that she was champing at the bit to get there.
Yes.
It's just gross. These are absolutely rudderless, dignity-free characters in American history.
Yeah, well, and we're going to get to Darrel Issa in a moment here, but I want to pause for a moment because we've been floating that we're going to talk about the Democrats, and I think this is a good time. So I'm going to read a little bit of Hakeem Jeffries' statement. Now, this is how Hakeem Jeffries' statement starts. I want you to think about what you would want to hear from an elected official in power right now, where they should start as far as their statement goes. This is how he started his. Quote, "Nicolás Maduro is a criminal and authoritarian dictator who has oppressed the people of Venezuela for years. Let's just pause. Number one, I would say, why are we starting here? Why are we starting here? I think we should be starting with Donald Trump, right?
Yeah.
And we can get to all of this later.
Because it pre-justifies what Donald Trump did.
Right.
And then, so you have to set the stage, and then you have to go back and like undo the damage that you just did about what a bad guy he is.
Yeah,
we all know he's a bad fucking guy.
Yeah. Tipping the scales. Yeah. Absolutely.
Maybe I should read my statement after yours so people can see how one should be written.
And then he goes on. He is not the legitimate head of government. Undoubtedly, the rule of law and democracy have broken down in Venezuela, and the people of that country deserve better. Donald Trump has the constitutional responsibility to follow the law and protect democratic norms in the United States. That is what putting America first requires. The Trump administration has not sought congressional authorization for the use of military force and has failed to properly notify Congress in advance of the operation in Venezuela. The promotion of security and stability in a region requires more than just military force, as we painfully discovered in Iraq and Afghanistan. For far too many questions remain unanswered, including with respect to whether further military actions are planned. First, how many American troops remain on the ground in Venezuela? Second, what does America is going to run Venezuela until
somebody complained about his
a judicious transition takes place. That was not my fault, okay?
Yeah.
Third,
they should have proofed that.
Third, were these military strikes about seizing foreign oil to benefit friends of the Trump administration? Were they?
Mm-hmm.
Were they? Anyway, I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to compare, before you read your statement, to Mark Kelly, Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona, who also put out
I haven't heard this one yet.
A statement. Quote, "The President of the United States just overthrew a foreign ruler and explained to the American people that this is about taking control of the oil reserves of a foreign nation. He said that the U.S. will run the country until a proper transition can take place, and went right into how U.S. oil companies will benefit from this takeover. He doesn't understand the risks and costs involved with these poorly thought out decisions that don't make Americans any safer today than they were yesterday." Nicolás Maduro, you see how it's done.
Yeah.
Nicolás Maduro is a brutal, illegitimate dictator who deserves to face justice. I want the people of Venezuela to be free to choose their own future. But if we learned anything from the Iraq War, it's that dropping bombs or toppling a leader It doesn't guarantee democracy, stability, or make Americans safer. More often, it leads to chaos or drags the U.S. into a war and lengthy occupation. I don't trust that this administration has a plan, timeline, or price tag for what comes next. Over the past year, Trump's foreign policy has been reckless, chaotic, self-serving, and unconstitutional. Congress should vote this week to reassert its authority on behalf of the American people before he oversteps again. I also want to recognize the professionalism and skill of the American service members involved in this operation. While I don't agree with the administration's justification for this, I'm thankful that no service members were killed or seriously injured.
Thankful that no service members were injured or killed during their illegal operation inside the borders of a foreign country. Didn't say that, but
it is disappointing that he ended it there, especially since he was one of the people featured in the video that caused so much.
Well, you can only push so hard being a moderate Democrat.
That quote unquote caused so much controversy online because all he did was remind the troops that they do not have to follow unlawful orders, and everyone melted down.
It was a better statement than Hakeem Jeffries for sure. Yes. Absolutely. This was mine. Not as good as Mark Kelly's, I don't think. I mean, we should have not read his last paragraph there, but this is what I wrote. I said, the United States is a constitutional republic. We have a democratic government designed with power divided between three separate but equal branches of that government. Nicolás Maduro, being a loathsome thug and dictator, does not give Donald Trump unilateral authority to violate our Constitution, which provides explicit sole authority to Congress to declare war against other nations. This attack on Venezuela isn't about whether Maduro is a bad guy, parenthetically, he is. It's about our bad guy, Trump, parenthetically, seizing powers beyond those granted to him by our laws and founding documents. That's what this is about. You don't have to say, oh, huzzah, Nicolás Maduro is out of power. Oh, wonderful. And then go, oh, but... What is he doing?
We also have to say that Senator Chuck Schumer, has said that, quote, we hope that we can have the support from our Republican colleagues to put a brake on this long before it gets that far, in terms of whether he supports the possibility of starting proceedings for impeachment. So why are you continuing to talk about hoping that you're going to have support from your Republican colleagues?
Yeah, when are they going to that's a fucking pipe dream, Chuck. You're not going to get support from your Republican colleagues, your fascists and fascist-enabling colleagues in the Republican Party, Chuck.
The Republicans, with very few exceptions related to the Epstein files, have completely fallen in line with everything that Donald Trump does, says. I mean, even when he attacked Rob Reiner, which was like a notoriously unpopular thing that he did when he posted that hateful thing about Rob and his wife being murdered.
Yeah, because of his Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah, and it was like universally, like even people who were like, I voted for Trump and that's a bridge too far. It's like, really? The Rob Reiner statement? Right. I mean, whatever it takes. But Mike Johnson was totally on board with that. He was asked, will you disavow what he said? And he didn't. All of these Republicans, they fall in line with even these universally unpopular thing that Donald Trump says or does. And another example of that would be Darrel Issa, who recently was floating running for Congress.
In Texas,
even though he lives in California.
Yeah, we didn't talk about this at all. So what happened with him is he lost his district and then ran for a different district in California and won. This is when we lived there. He lived in North San Diego County. Anyway, and so now that he lost again, he's going to lose again because of the redistricting in California. He's going to move to Texas to run. Just power. It is just a drug for these freaks.
Yeah, I think he had said he is planning on not running in Texas anymore. I can't find confirmation of that, but
it was floated.
No,
he was talking
floated.
about.
Yeah, he was talking about.
He was
doing
caught
it.
on a hot mic talking to somebody.
Yeah, and even he was running away from Manu Raju, who was trying to track him down and ask him about it.
Look, Manu Raju, who's famously very even keel. Darrel Issa's staffer tried to slam the door on his face. It's like, dude. You can't shut the door on me.
Yeah.
I'm in the building here.
Yeah. So Darrel Issa is one of the Republicans who's making the rounds after this news about Venezuela. And wouldn't you know it, he's defending it.
As we painfully discovered in Iraq and Afghanistan. He parallels, uses those two wars as examples. Do you see a parallel between either of those cases and what the U.S. has done in Venezuela?
Nick, see, there's no real parallel. In both cases, originally President George W. Bush and then leaders and after him, they tried to nation build, particularly Afghanistan, which, the reality is it wasn't going to be built on an American model. Venezuela has a history, it has an educated people, it has its own wealth. All they really need is an opportunity to select an interim leader and then to have free and fair elections. We don't need to nation build. I'm sure President Trump, having learned the lesson of Afghanistan and Iraq, has no intention to tell them how to run their country. He has simply liberated them from a strongman who's been holding by force and intimidation this country hostage.
I wish somebody would liberate us from the strong man who's taken us hostage.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Well, yes, you wish you talked about it earlier, the McDonald's, right? And
yes, with McDonald's and Big Mac sauce. Do your job.
The quadruple aspirin situation. So one thing that we do want to talk about is that CBS is in the pocket of the Trump administration. And we know this, in the pocket, I guess is a weird phrase to use, but the Ellisons, the billionaire Ellisons, are directing the show there. Barry Weiss took over, and she is now handpicked a new anchor for CBS Evening News, Tony DeCopel. I was calling him something different for a long time because I thought his name was something different, and now I don't know what his name is. So I appreciate the assistance there. But one thing that happened related to Venezuela is that
I do notice the clip is labeled Tony's. It's not labeled Tony DeCopel. It's labeled Tony's.
Oh, yes. So there is some reporting that CBS News was essentially rewarded with the Venezuelan scoop here because they were the first to report it. Now, Donald Trump didn't post on Truth Social until like 4 a.m. Eastern, after 4 a.m. Eastern. The first apparently person to post about it was CBS News's senior White House reporter Jennifer Jacobs, who posted on Twitter at 2:05 a.m. So hours before Donald Trump talked about it. And she posted that Trump administration officials had been aware of reports of explosions and aircraft over Venezuelan's capital. So, and then less than 30 minutes later at 2:31 a.m., according to reporting from the Daily Beast here, she and the network's national security editor, Jim Laporta, revealed on Twitter that Donald Trump had, quote, ordered strikes on sites inside Venezuela, including military facilities, citing U.S. officials. They said this was the, quote, administration's ratcheting up its campaign against the regime of President Maduro. And so this is kind of the problem of CBS being granted this special access with Barry Weiss and the Ellisons, ensuring that they will be a tool of the administration. We know that Barry Weiss censored a 60 Minutes segment about many of the men who were sent to CCOT, the torture prison in El Salvador.
Yep.
And
we also know that they fired Stephen Colbert,
right,
and are just ending the Late Show, the famed Late Show that was hosted by David Letterman for decades. They're just ending that. All for Donald Trump because he doesn't like being made fun of. It's all in support of Donald Trump and this fascist.
Right. And I do hope that you watched that leaked segment of the 60 Minutes because it leaked in Canada. And then once that happened, it was everywhere online. And there is nothing about that segment that is dishonest, inappropriate. There's no reason to censor it.
Deep reporting on that. Fact checked. It was a rock solid piece.
Right. The only reason to not report it is because you're afraid that the government is going to look bad and you don't want the government to look bad. And even the 60 Minutes correspondent who did that segment, who produced that segment, warned in a letter to her colleagues when it was revealed that Barry Weiss was going to censor it, was that CBS News is risking becoming the, quote, stenographer for the state. So that's the state of things at CBS Evening News. So when you hear that there's going to be a new CBS Evening News anchor, you have to wonder, Who is this person that has been handpicked by the oligarch-controlled CBS News? Who is this person, and what does he represent? We have some initial signs. CBS News came out and said that they have like 5 new principles that they're going to follow, and one of them is that they love America.
I mean, really, it just they're a shadow of Fox News. They just, it's what they're. I can tell you what, Fox News has got to be a little bummed they didn't get the scoop on the Venezuela invasion, and it's been given to CBS instead.
Yeah, well, that's what you get when you have loyalty.
Yeah,
and so Tony at CBS Evening News made this announcement letting everyone know what his priorities are going to be for coverage of CBS Evening News.
A lot has changed since the first person sat in this chair, but for me, the biggest difference is people do not trust us like they used to. And it's not just us, it's all of legacy media. And I get it. I get it because I've been hearing about it from just about everybody for more than 20 years as I've traveled America on this assignment or that. My mom's neighbors in West Virginia, my own neighbors in New York City, thousands and thousands of conversations in between. Sometimes people want to talk to me about our coverage of NAFTA or the Iraq War. Other times it's all about Hillary Clinton's emails or Russiagate. Or more recently, COVID lockdowns, Hunter Biden's laptop, or the president's fitness for office. The point is, on too many stories, the press has missed the story because we've taken into account the perspective of advocates and not the average American. Or we put too much weight in the analysis of academics or elites and not enough on you. And I know this because at certain points, I have been you. I have felt this way too. I felt like what I was seeing and hearing on the news didn't reflect what I was seeing and hearing in my own life, and that the most urgent questions simply weren't being asked. So here's my promise to you today and every time you see me in this chair. You come first, not advertisers, not politicians, not corporate interests. And yes, that does include the corporate owners of CBS. I report for you, which means I tell you what I know, when I know it, and how I know it. And when I get it wrong, I'll tell you that too. It also means I'm going to talk to everybody and hold everyone in public life to the very same standard. After all, I became a journalist to talk to people. I love talking to people about what works in this country, what doesn't, and not only what should change, but the good ideas that should never change. I think telling the truth is one of them. I'm Tony DeCopel, the anchor of the CBS Evening News. Hold me to it.
So there are many things that are horrifying about that. The first one that I think would be horrifying is that he is saying essentially that the news has relied far too much on academics, on experts, on people who I guess know what they're talking about. There should be a value that is placed on giving people factual reporting. Right. The people do not get to decide what the facts are. The people do not tell you. And this is something that bothers me about polling too. Harry Enton will get on and he'll talk about this is what Americans believe. This is majority support this, minority support this. Never in that conversation is, as the media, here's what's true and what's not when we're talking about these polls. Oh, the majority of Americans believe this. It happens to not be right, okay? They never opine in that way. They never give the factual information in that way. That's what your job is to tell people what's actually happening. Now they're going to travel America and talk to average Americans about what they say and what they believe. Like, no, you're supposed to be, there's one version of reality. And you're supposed to be telling people what the version of reality is. This is not debatable. People can have differing opinions. Sure, yeah, they can either support abortion or be against abortion. But the fact that an abortion ban is in place and women are dying as a result of that, that's a fact. That's something that gets reported as a fact. And so it's really disturbing to have someone sit in that chair, knowing what CBS Evening News is and has been, and say that he's no longer going to be talking about what the facts are. He's going to let the American people tell him, essentially, what is this, American Idol. He's going to vote on facts to air on CBS Evening News. It's disgusting. It's horrifying. This is probably why I'm not learning his name. I don't feel like I want to. I don't need to. And
he's also a massive supporter of anything that Israel does, up to and including the starvation of the Palestinian people and genocide.
Yeah, so
he is a toxic fucking guy.
It's scary because there's also a lot of people, and I know people personally who CBS is their go-to news. They didn't know anything about what was happening behind the scenes. So there's all kinds of people out there who are continuing to watch CBS News thinking that nothing has changed when everything has changed, when it's about to become Fox News, it's about to become Newsmax. It's all these outlets that have been taken over and are being run by Trump fans. And that's what we have here at CBS Evening News.
Yeah, I mean, what are they going to do when we're reporting on vaccines? Are they going to go to Gary down at the auto body shop, or are they going to talk to an immunologist, an epidemiologist, an expert in the field? They don't care about expertise, so maybe it is going to be Gary at the auto body shop. Yeah, gross. Anyway, let's end it there. We are back at it. We love and appreciate you guys. There are going to be some tweaks to the show, but we are back at it on a weekly basis. We're hunting down that 1,000th episode, and very soon we will be there. We appreciate you. We seek your feedback as well. You can call the voicemail line, which is 657-464-7609. And, of course, as always, you can email us, idoubitit@dollemore.com. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Lovely, talented, scholarly Brittany Page?
I think that's it.
All right. We will see you next time. For Brittany Page, I am Jesse Dollemore, and this has been I Doubt It.